The following is a production of Stevenson Media. Want to tip the host? Just scan the QR code or click the link in the description. Get a free Houston Sports State of the Union podcast t-shirt with a donation of $50 or more.
This is the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, the president of Houston Sports Nation, Nick Stevenson.
My goodness, thank you so much. Please be seated. My fellow Houstonians, welcome to the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast address for the week of July 21st. I am the self-appointed president of Houston Sports Nation, Nick Stevenson. As always, there are a million different things you could be doing this evening, but you chose to spend a little bit of time with me, and I do appreciate it. On tonight's show, Houston Texans training camp has begun. Now, I'm going to have my insider, Josh Stevenson, join the show, correct? Okay, I may not have my training camp insider that I expected to have, but there are plenty of fans who are watching training camp, plenty of local insiders that have gotten good coverage. So we're going to talk about some of their observations, and we're going to take a look at D'Amico's press conference from today. The Houston Astros are taking on the Dodgers in about an hour and 15. They are clinging on to a one-game lead in their division, and one of their rivals has just added a pretty big piece. Ball's in your court, Dana. What are you going to do? And lastly, I want to pay tribute to the legendary Houston Rockets broadcaster Gene Peterson, who passed away on Wednesday. That one might be difficult for me to get through. So many sports memories of mine from my childhood were brought to life by the voices of Gene Peterson and Jim Foley, who are now both gone. But I want to honor them and pay my respects to them, those two legends today. So we're going to do that as well. And then hopefully I'll be able to give away a t-shirt or some free swag today by maybe doing some Houston sports trivia. But that's what we got coming up on the show today. I do thank you guys for joining me. Once again, I would like to remind you of the ways you can support the show. One of them you're doing already. You're listening, you're watching. Hopefully you are hitting share with your friends and family. Don't forget to remind them to follow, like, and subscribe wherever they enjoy listening to or watching podcasts. And then there's also right here, if you're watching the video, a QR code for my tip jar. If you would like to leave a tip to the show, everything you guys leave the show will go directly into me bringing you guys more content and continuing the show. And then also, if you're not watching, there is a link to the tip jar in the description of the video that you're watching or the audio that you're listening to. Excuse me while I adjust my mic for a moment. And then there's also affiliate links in that description for Houston Sports Fan Gear, and there are links to the podcast equipment I am using to bring you this podcast. Anytime you guys make any purchase with those links, I will get a little bit of a cha-ching commission from that. So I do appreciate that. Those are the ways you can support financially. And I do still have some sponsorship space available if you are interested in doing that. I would love to represent your business, and I would love to have us grow our businesses together and form that partnership. So if you are interested in that, the email address is hsstateoftheunionpod@gmail.com. Reach out to me, and I would love to talk to you about that. So yeah, those are the ways to support the show. Appreciate you guys again for listening. I want to get right into it, man. Let's start with the state of the Houston Texans. All right. Training camp is here. And I would like to go to my training camp insider, brand new season ticket holder, been sitting in the front row every day. Josh Stevenson, are you there? Oh, man. I see you in the chat, man. I see you in the chat. Does that mean you're not in practice? I'm just messing with him. My brother already told me that he slipped up and didn't check his email. So he missed out on his training camp tickets. But that's cool, man. It's all love, Josh. You know, I know you're still paying attention to what's going down in training camp. And I know as Houston Texans fans, we're just excited that there's actually people at least resembling playing football. There's plenty of fans out there watching the Texans pretend that they're playing football, aka practice. But I've been watching a lot of your fan videos and a lot of our great local coverage from local sports. Been checking out a lot of the videos on ESPN Houston, which I actually have an announcement regarding ESPN Houston a little bit later that I'd like for you guys to talk about. But yeah, we have awesome local media covering the show, but also the beauty of social media is that the fans who are at the practices have been showing a lot of video. And by all means, one of the things that have stuck out to me from all the reports, from all the videos, is that a lot of noise is being made about the cornerbacks, specifically Derek Stingley Jr. and Kamari Lassiter. Now, Kamari has been getting a lot of praise, not only from the media and from fans, but from his teammates and from his coaches. For me, I think that's a huge deal because when we did the show right after the draft, I told you guys, D'Amico seemed really excited to have gotten Kamari Lassiter, but I questioned whether Kamari Lassiter was really the corner that they wanted, since a couple of corners, including the one that I particularly wanted, Kool-Aid McKinstry, went right before Kamari. And we all heard the knocks on Kamari, that he didn't have the speed, that he was too slow. But we never heard that from D'Amico Ryans. As a matter of fact, D'Amico Ryans said they loved everything they saw from him on film and that he was game fast. So when I started seeing that Kamari Lassiter was a standout in practice, that made me really excited and happy to hear. I watched an interview that Stephon Diggs did with the media after practice, and he was asked about Kamari. And Kamari said that training camp is to get these young guys ready. But he said, man, Kamari might be ready now. He mentioned that he's not really a big talker, that he's just about standing on business and out there making plays. And, you know, when you watch the press conference that Kamari Lassiter did after practice, he said much of the same thing. He's just out there putting it on the field and letting his play speak for itself. But D'Amico Ryans, you know, after all these practices, D'Amico Ryans said, look, everything we saw on film when we were scouting him for the draft is what we're seeing out here on the field. And what he said he loves about him the most is that he competes every day on every play. So that's good news, because I think corner, I'm not going to say corner was a weak spot on this team last year, but we knew we had one side solidified with Derek Stingley Jr., assuming he can stay healthy, which we'll get into later. But I think most of us wanted the first pick in the draft to be a corner because we understood that our secondary needed some help as far as pass coverage. And so I'm super excited to hear that the cornerbacks are doing well. Stingley's making a lot of noise, and I don't think that shocks us. But there's been a lot of people talking about how good he's looked. Stephon Diggs was asked about him as well, and Stephon had no problem saying, look, Sting is one of the best corners in the league. That is my phone making dinosaur noises over here. I apologize, people, if y'all heard that. That scared the ish out of me. My goodness, I'm sorry. But yeah, Stephon's gone up against some really good corners in this league. He's been in the league a long time now. He said, I have no problem saying that Sting is one of the best. So when Stingley got up in front of the press, everyone asked him about, you know, hey, man, word on the streets is you're out here killing it. And, you know, a lot of the media is watching as well. So they noticed that he stood out. And a lot of his teammates and coaches were mentioning him by name, that he stands out. And I think Sting said that when he talked to the press, he said, once again, he's just grinding and staying healthy is one of his goals for the season. Doesn't want to get hurt. Doesn't want to see his teammates get hurt. And then 5 seconds later, Stingley beat up somebody in practice. Okay. No, he didn't actually beat up anybody in practice, but there was a lot made yesterday of what we'll call chippiness, a skirmish, a little bit of extracurricular activities is what we'll call it. And I tell you what, the AFC South war zone, they were all over it. Like, they were loving it, especially the non-Texans fans. So what happened is, apparently, you know, I've watched several videos on it and read several reports. Apparently in practice, Stephon Diggs caught a pass, and For those of you who are watching the show that are not familiar with how practice works, because I do know that I have some people who support me but aren't necessarily heavy sports fans. When they're in practice, they don't actually tackle one another. They don't bring each other to the ground. They'll wrap up and make sure that it's shown, the coaches know, like, hey, I would have stopped this guy, but we don't want to injure our own players. So we're not supposed to bring guys to the ground. Now, these guys are out here competing. It's hot. They're playing fast. They're, a lot of guys out there are still, trying to make the team or trying to prove a point to the coaches. Stephon Diggs is not one of those people, and I don't think Jimmy Ward is either. But the report is that Stephon Diggs, and I saw the video, caught a pass. Jimmy Ward, I think his momentum really just carried him into him, and he hit Diggs a little harder than you want to hit your teammate in practice. They'd been practicing out there in the heat. So at that point, the offense and the defense, they converge. There's a bunch of trash talk. You know how it is when you were at school and people were acting like they were going to fight, but they really wasn't going to do nothing, like telling other people, hey, man, hold me back. A lot of that was going on. And I got to give credit. They kept CJ out the way, because even in a skirmish or a skirmish, whatever you want to call it, a skirmish, if there's a fight going on and like somebody gets pushed and trips, you don't want somebody landing on CJ and tearing his ACL. So like they kept him out of the scrum, which I give them credit for. But yeah, it was just a bunch of trash talking. And then it looked like it was starting to break up. Now, this is my guess. I wasn't there, and I don't know nobody who was there, because my bro, I love you, bro. And I'm going to read some of your comments here in a second. I'm just messing with you. But I wasn't there. But if I had to guess, like Dalton Schultz must have said something about Derek Stingley's mama. Because like all of a sudden he turned into Bobby Boucher and just straight up ran over Dalton Schultz and blindsided him and knocked him to the ground. Now, Dalton Schultz is not a small guy, so in order to knock him to the ground, he must have hit him with some force. Now, what could he possibly have said? Like, I don't know. That's the type of thing you do if somebody says something about your mama. I don't know. Sting is from LSU. Maybe he said that New Orleans food is trash. Maybe he said that Cash Money Records indeed did not take over the 99 and the 2000. I don't know what he possibly could have said. But he said something that made him mad. And he hit him with some pretty good force. I mean, he knocked him down. Let's see. My bro's adding some insight. Says Diggs was sliding. Dalton had his back. Yeah. Like the offense and the defense, like they were having each other's back. And I do like that too, And here's the thing, man, training camp fights happen all the time. But it started with Stephon Diggs. We already know that there is a narrative about Stephon Diggs. I'm telling you, AFC South Warzone, all the non-Texans fans, they were all over it. Oh, you see Diggs, he's a cancer. He's tearing the team apart already. And like a week of practice, like, come on now. I'm telling you, man, non-Houston fans want to see us fall so bad that they will reach for anything. But, I mean, yes, camp fights happen. It's not anything new. Do we want it to happen? I mean, what we don't want is for anybody to get hurt. And as a matter of fact, earlier today, after practice, D'Amico Ryans did a press conference, and he was asked about the situation, and this is what he said.
Well, when it comes to the skirmishes in practice, I don't want it, right? I don't want it. I also understand it. Myself as a player, I was involved in some, so I'm not going to act like it doesn't happen, right? And the tempers get raised, guys. It's camp. It always happens in camp. You have skirmishes and fights, but what I tell guys is what can we learn from it? For me, if we're in a game, like, are you throwing hands in the game? If you do, then you're thrown out of the game. So for me, it's just learning a lesson, man. You throw punches, whatever you do, are you really protecting the team? Because now you're kicked out of the game. So I don't want it. I don't like it. It's sloppy. I think it's not representative of who we are, as a team, as an organization. It's not what we're about. We're not encouraging that, but it does happen in camp. Just want guys to move forward from it. Nobody's holding any grudges. We're still teammates. We're still brothers, right? Skirmishes happen in our families all the time. We get upset, but at the end of the day, we're still family and still all love. I love the competition, right? And I couldn't be more happier with the competition level in our practices. Our first, 6 or 7 practices. I mean, the competition has been, at an elite level, from defense, offense, right? All sides of the ball are making plays, and that's what you want to see, right? No one side is just outdoing the other side every day. Guys are truly competing, making each other better, and that's what you want to see from the team.
All right, so I thought that was well said. He said it happens, but we don't want it to happen. It's sloppy. It's not representative of who we are. And I'm assuming he probably had that conversation with Derek Stingley Jr. after the fact. I just want to know what Dalton Schultz said to him. Like, for you to be ready to fight, somebody had to say something wild, right? Like I said, you only do that if somebody talked about your mama, somebody said something about your girlfriend, your wife, whatever. Said your daddy ain't shit. I don't know. Josh, my brother JT says me and my brother used to box all the time, and I'll still take a bullet for him. Amen. Amen. And those are the type of things, in football, there's a lot of testosterone on the field. That stuff happens, man. I think it's gonna be fine. I trust D'Amico Ryans and his coaching staff. They're the right type of guys. The right type of culture has been set. I don't think it's a big deal, even though all our haters want to make a big deal out of it. Now, what I will say is this. Derek Stingley Jr. already has injury problems, man. So if he would have went and checked Dalton Schultz and dislocated his shoulder, that could have been devastating. Absolutely. So that's not the type of stuff you want to see in practice. I do like that it's chippy. I do like that it's competitive. The good news is, man, they're going to get to hit other people on August 1st when they play the Bears and the Hall of Fame game right around the corner. I can't wait, but let's get everybody there healthy. D'Amico Ryans was asked about the game plan, who's going to play in the Hall of Fame game. He said that right now they're still working on that game plan, but he said, quote, expect to see a lot of the young guys. CJ Stroud is still one of the young guys, so will he play a significant time? We shall see, but it'll be nice to see some actual football. I'm looking forward to it, man. It's right around the corner. Okay, real quick, let's do the state of the Houston Astros. Okay. The Astros are getting ready to take on the Dodgers in just a little bit. They are holding on like hell to first place right now by 1 game. And the team behind them just made a pretty significant move as the Seattle Mariners have acquired Randy Arozarena from the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, Randy Arozarena is having a bit of a down year. He's not hitting for a good average right now, but he still has 15 home runs. He's got a .712 OPS. And yeah, it's a down year for him, but Tampa Bay is not very good. So maybe a change of scenery will be what he needs. But Seattle needs to get their offense. Their offense is terrible right now. And all reports are saying they're still looking to add more bats because they just can't score any runs on anybody. And for them, it's a low risk, high reward because he's a free agent next year. They're not giving up top prospects for him. And they're not spending a lot of money this year. So why not go for it? This is a pretty critical season for them because they kind of choked away the division last year and are on the verge of doing it again. A lot of the reports are also saying that our neighbors to the north of us, the Rangers, are also, quote unquote, going for it. So as I said in the open, Dana Brown, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Right now, the heavy rumor is that the Tigers and the Astros are talking about Jack Flaherty. Now, please forgive me if I don't jump up and do a backflip out of my chair over Jack Flaherty. He's a good pitcher. He would be a good addition to this team. I don't think he replaces Fromber as your number one. He would be a good starting pitcher, which obviously the Astros need. There's a need for starting pitching because of the lack of production for some and because of how many injuries we have there. But Jack Flaherty is not what I would consider going for it. I don't consider him somebody who puts you over the edge. But the question is, are the Astros going to be able to make that kind of move? We've talked many, many times before about how the Houston Astros are like $4 or somewhere between $4 to $6 million before they enter the next level. I just smacked the crap out of my microphone. I hope ESPN Houston's not watching. No, but before they enter the next level of the luxury tax, and I've said this before, man, I don't think Jim Crane wants to do that. And not unless he knows for sure whatever this addition is that puts him over that luxury cap or that luxury tax level is gonna for sure make them contenders. And I gotta say, man, I don't know if the Houston Astros are just 1-2 players away. I think they could be, and we all know, man, all you got to do is in baseball, you got to make the tournament. Once you make the tournament, anything can happen. But in the tournament, you need pitching. So apparently that's what they're going for. Some of the names it's like a carousel of names. Some of the names that the Astros have been attached to recently are Zach Eflin of the Rays. Once again, super good. Like maybe if they can get a couple of these guys, that would be great. Zach Eflin, Eric Fed of the White Sox. I would rather have his teammate, Garrett Crochet, but apparently it's looking like that's not going to happen. Jamison Talon, that is a Cubs pitcher who was a Houston native, went to Woodlands High School. Once again, would be super good additions. And Dana Brown in his press conference kind of said, like, we're looking for somebody who would be a good third or fourth starter. That doesn't sound like going for it. Now, maybe they think the team as constructed is good enough that they don't need to 100% go for it. They don't need Vlad Guerrero Jr. or Garrett Crochet. And I guess we'll find out, man. Look, they're about to take on the Dodgers tonight. They have a 3-game series with the Dodgers. The Dodgers are 20 games over 500. So I want to see this team at least compete with them and show us that, hey, we're not as far off as you guys think we are. And maybe show the front office, hey, we're not that far off. And maybe that'll give them some incentive to quote unquote go for it. I'm not entirely sure. Whatever happens, like, I think I would just want them to make solid moves. I think the only thing that would really disappoint Astros fans is if the Astros did absolutely nothing, which I don't think there's a chance of that happening. But tonight you've got Framber Valdez going up against, hold on a second, live radio. I looked this up earlier, but I forgot to put it in mind. Gavin Stone. Gavin Stone has a regular season record of 9-3, a 3.19 ERA. I mean, the Dodgers just like fart out pitchers, bro. Like, it's crazy. I don't know. The Astros, they obviously need pitching. And I bring this up because I'm actually following Trevor Bauer's YouTube channel. Like, he has his own YouTube channel where he just posts videos of him dominating whatever league he's in right now, Mexico or something like that. And he looks really good, bro. Like, the MLB must know something about Trevor Bauer. Like, obviously he has done something. Obviously we all know what he's accused of. But many reports about the situation that he's in with the young lady that he allegedly sexually assaulted, many of those reports were making her story look really shaky, but of course we don't have the whole story. So I feel like if anyone thought that there was a chance that Trevor Bauer would be completely exonerated, he'd be on somebody's team, right? Like I said, he looks really good. He set a record for the league that he's in Mexico, the consecutive strikeout record. I think at the time it was 8. He struck out 9 batters in a row and set that record. So, I mean, he's obviously still got it. And this is the time of year where people who need pitching, who need bats, like, this is the time of year where people are trying to put themselves over the top, in close divisions and close races, or, try to make themselves more heavily favored in the postseason. So if they're not bringing on Trevor Bauer as well as he's pitching, and once again, it is Mexico. I know Mexico's not the best competition in the world, but still, like, he looks really good. So I don't know, but I just want to see what the Astros do. Like I said, as long as they do something, I think Astros fans will be happy. I don't think they're going to do anything that's going to blow your guys' minds, though, man. We've gone over their financial situation, and I said this earlier in the season when they weren't winning, and I got some backlash for it, but I don't know 100% that Jim Crane is just dying to win another World Series right away. I think he's weighing finance versus winning the World Series. And I think winning the World Series is important to him right now. But he's got 2 already. So maybe winning a third this season, it's like, how much is it going to cost me? And I know us as fans, we are like, oh, these guys are billionaires. They have the money, spend it. Well, the reason they're billionaires is because they don't spend it, or they spend it wisely. So let's just, we have how many more days? Today is the 26th, and the deadline is on the 30th. So we got 4 more days to find out what's going to happen. And I really hope that the Houston Astros acquire a couple of pieces that will make them more competitive in this division, and competitive if they were to make the playoffs with some of these other teams. I don't know what it means when the Texas Rangers say they're going for it, but they kind of scare me because they're only like 4 or 5 games back of us. And yeah, one thing we can say, I mean, our division's not great, but at least it's not boring anymore. I don't know about you guys, but I would take the Astros absolutely boat racing the rest of the division like they used to do all day, every day over this. This is stressful, but it does make the regular season more interesting. This is going to be a really exciting series against the Dodgers. Hopefully the Astros can make it competitive. And I would say, I forgot to mention this about the Texans, but the state of the Houston Astros is still strong. It could be stronger, and it's up to Dana Brown to make sure that that happens. Let's go ahead and really quick do the state of the Houston Rockets. Okay, if you guys haven't noticed, I'm kind of flying through this show. I mean, there's not a whole lot of, we don't have games to talk about. Rockets Summer League, they finished the Summer League with a loss to the Trailblazers. They finished 2-3, not a big deal. Reed Shepherd and Cam Whitmore didn't even play in the final game. They looked really good in Summer League, so I think they're gonna going into camp. There's going to be a lot of anticipation about what they're going to do, and can Reed Shepherd carve out minutes for himself. But not a whole lot going on as far as basketball wise. And I didn't get an opportunity to bring Lashard Binkley on today because our schedule is kind of conflicted. But I will try to bring him on next week so we can talk more Houston Rockets. What I wanted to take advantage of this time for was to talk about Gene Peterson, who I mentioned in the open, passed away on Wednesday. Gene Peterson was 83 years old. For those of you who maybe are new Rockets fans or maybe younger, hopefully I got some young Rockets fans listening. Gene Peterson was the radio voice for the Houston Rockets for 33 years. And for me, he was the radio voice during the golden age of Houston Rockets basketball in the 90s. And to this day, probably my favorite sports broadcaster. I mean, he's right up there with, to me, the Mike Breens, the Keith Jacksons. And he was a local guy, though. I mean, those guys are national broadcasters. And, you know, when I started deciding that I wanted to podcast, I always channel a lot of my favorite guys growing up. And I said it in the open, Gene Peterson's voice told the story of so many of my favorite childhood memories. I mentioned this in a post on social media that when I was a little kid, my bedtime was 9 o'clock. So when the Rockets would play on the West Coast, I had to go to bed. I wasn't allowed to stay up and watch the game. And I don't know, it's one of those things that I never admitted this to my parents until I was an adult. And maybe they knew, I don't know. But I used to go in my room and I had a clock radio that I used for my alarm clock. And I would hide under my bed and I would listen to Gene Peterson and Jim Foley on the radio play the Rockets game. That's how much I love the Rockets. Like, yes, I disobeyed my parents. Kids, don't do that. It's not a good thing. There's worse things I could have been doing, though. I was hiding under my bed, and there's worse things you can do under your bed than listen to the Houston Rockets. But I would hide under the bed, and I would listen to Gene. And, man, the thing I love about Gene, take away, like, the man had golden pipes. But describing basketball on the radio has got to be a difficult job. You have to paint a picture in the listener's mind. And, you know, radio play-by-play, even today, you know, I mean, radio is kind of a dying platform. But there's a reason that we all like to judge and critique our radio announcers, our color commentators, our play-by-play announcers. It's because they just add something to the game that makes it better. And I don't think anyone did it better than Gene Peterson, man. And I just have so many memories, man. And when I made a tribute video for him, and I'm going to warn you guys ahead of time. I don't know if YouTube is going to kick me for this video because there may or may not be some footage of games that might flag some type of copyright. I don't know, but I just wanted to make a tribute to my favorite broadcaster of all time, Gene Peterson, and Jim Foley, who passed away several years ago, and now both of them are gone. I want to share this video tribute with you guys. I hope it plays all the way through. If it doesn't, I'll restart the live, but I'm going to try to play it. And you guys I wanted to try to pass on the feeling I had on the inside when I was a kid, when Gene Peterson would call a game. So you guys enjoy this video.
Trying to get open. Looking, gets it into Maloney. Maloney gets around Stockton. Look at Clyde. He's got it. He's got Elijah one. Back to Maloney. Maloney turns. Eddie at the buzzer. Yeah! Oh, mother! Eddie Johnson! Holy cow! Eddie Johnson does it again! Yes! Unbelievable! Kyle Malone's probably going to try to muscle it, or they'll shoot the outside shot, one or the other. Chambers looking. Still looking. Out it comes 20 seconds. 12 on the clock. Well, start the time clock. They're not even starting the clock. The clock. They didn't even start the clock. They haven't even started the clock. They haven't yet.
Well, between the two of us and Jess Kersey, I don't know who was more flustered in that situation. He was the lead official in that particular ball game against the Jazz that night. And I just don't know how we could do anything but lose control. It was just one of those situations. There was 13 seconds to go. It came inbound, and 5 seconds, 6 seconds later, there was still 13 seconds to go. We were both extremely frustrated.
Well, I tell you what, I don't know if we were broadcasting to our audience at the time. I think we were
each other.
We were trying to get through to this timekeeper who was seated right in front of us.
They didn't even start the clock. They haven't even started the clock. They haven't yet. They haven't started the clock. Something's got to give here. Can you believe this? They haven't even started the clock. We got it anyway. We got it anyway. Take it in. This ball game is over. Oh my goodness gracious. Yes. How sweet it is. The Rockets win it, and boy, that's one of the dirtiest plays I've ever seen. What in the world is the matter with those people? Holy cow. 8 seconds. Oh man, you talk about a home court advantage. Woo!
It is the longest tenure of any professional sports duo, 27 years together. And Jimmy started out as a statistical wizard with the PR and all of that, and he's developed into a heck of a color analyst.
Oscar averaged 31 points, 12 and a half rebounds, and 11 assists for an entire season.
I think it's probably the longest streak going in the NBA or in professional sports, and I don't think Madden and Summerall can even come close to 27 years together.
The whole concept of being together, you learn as you go. Pretty soon it's like playing basketball. It's like playing football or baseball. You learn about your teammate. And that's kind of the way it is with Jim and I. We know when not to talk, when to talk, and sort of how to do it.
He was very polite to the officials.
Very polite.
The happiest moment of my life in Houston with the team was in 1976, the spring of 76, the first year the team had been in this building, now the Compaq Center, and the Rockets made the playoffs, and the people just lined up for tickets all the way around the block here.
Three-pointer, Maxwell, yes! Maxwell for three!
The biggest highs are the championships, obviously. The 94 was most special because it was the first one.
The Rockets are NBA champions! Holy cow!
The highlight of that was watching the greatest player that's ever played here, Hakeem Olajuwon, kind of separate himself from everybody else. He just came over and sat right beside Jim and I, real quiet, and just took it all in. And it brought tears to my eyes. I mean, I couldn't help but take it in.
Going underneath, here goes to Sampson. He puts it on it. Oh, yeah! We're on our way! We're on our way!
No, it doesn't get old because there's something new every night.
Watson, he puts it up from 22. Got it! Just inside the three-point line.
Steve Francis, Patino Mobley. My goodness, you never know what you're going to see night after night after night.
Another free throw shooter. Barry is in the lineup. They throw it in and foul somebody. Foul him. He turned it over. Turned it over. Here we go. We're down to 6, down to 5, down to 4. McGrady at the buzzer. Yes! With 1.7, there's no timeout. No timeouts. Here it comes up left. A runner is up. No good. The Rockets win it. Oh, give me 5.
I don't believe it!
I do not believe this.
This is one of the greatest comebacks in Rocket history.
I have never seen anything like this.
Tracy McGrady with 3 3-pointers down the final 24 seconds
And
of
a
the ball
steal.
game.
And a steal to get the last one. Absolute. I hope everybody turned it off. They won't believe it when they see the paper tomorrow.
I'm sorry. I told you guys that was going to be a tough one to get through. And this is the thing I try to explain to people who maybe aren't into sports and don't understand why people are fanatics of a game, a child's game that really, at the end of the day, in the grand scheme of things, does not matter. But sports is one of those things that are timestamps in all of our lives. And so I think about the moments that were happening in my life when those particular sports memories happened. And like I said, Gene Peterson, his voice told the story of so many of those great memories, man. And I hope that the Rockets will, and I'm sure that they will, I'm sure they're going to do some type of tribute to him once the season starts. My condolences to his family. I hope his family knows how appreciative the city is that you shared your husband, your father, your brother, whatever he was to you. I hope you know how appreciative that the city is that you shared him with us, because that job is probably difficult. You're on the road a lot. You're away from your family. And so all that sacrifice that he did. And here's what I loved about Gene Peterson and Jim Foley. You heard those calls. They were so emotionally invested in what happened with the team. And some of these teams are some of the current play-by-play announcers and color commentators don't exude that same level of emotional investment. I love Craig Ackerman to death. I remember when Craig Ackerman used to host the Rockets pregame, and he would pass it on to Gene and Jim before the game started. And Craig Ackerman is an extremely talented play-by-play person. I remember when he used to do the radio for the Houston Comets games. Extremely talented. If there's one thing I'll say about him, I don't know if he has aspirations of being a national play-by-play announcer or not. I never once heard Gene Peterson. I never once heard him excited about a play the other team made. And I don't care how amazing it was. if it wasn't the Houston Rockets doing it, then he wasn't excited about it. And sometimes Craig Ackerman gets super excited if the other team has a big shot or they do a nice alley-oop, and it just bugs me because I always think to myself, Gene would never. And Jim Foley as well. But when they reacted in those moments, the Tracy McGrady 13 points in 33 seconds, that huge three-pointer from Vernon Maxwell towards the end of Game 7 in their first championship against the Knicks, they reacted the way I reacted. And it was perfect, man. And like I said, his voice, Jim Foley, both of them are now gone. May they both rest in peace. And I hope both of their families know how appreciative the city is. Me as a 40-year-old man up here crying like a 3-year-old child. But man, I mean, I've told this story before, man. I used to cry anytime the Rockets lost, even regular season games. But like playoff heartbreaks, and that's what you felt with Gene Peterson and with Jim. When your heart was broken over a loss, you felt that their heart was broken as well. And I know there's a lot of money in the game now. And like I said, I think, Dad brought up Steve Sparks. And I'm blanking out on the gentleman who does radio for the Astros. Steve Sparks, he's funny. He's not my favorite. I don't love the way his voice sounds. And I'm forgetting the gentleman, the head broadcaster. I'm forgetting his name right now because I always forget names during the show. Excuse me. Got to get some water, man. All the emotions happening. But I think one thing I will say about Steve Sparks and his partners, they are very emotionally invested in the games as well. But I mean, Gene Peterson is among a class that there's very few of those guys left. And once they're gone, there won't be any more. So I just wanted to share that tribute video with you guys. YouTube did not kick me for playing it. Thank goodness. But yeah, as the state of the Houston Rockets, I think about often because his last season was 2008, I believe. And some of the great Rockets moments that have happened since then, I always imagine, like when I'm watching the game or if I'm watching a replay of it, I always imagine the call, how Gene would have called it. And, how Gene would have called the amazing run that James Harden went on in his MVP season on his unguardable tour. Or some of the, awesome series versus the Warriors and the Rockets. I always think to myself, man, I wonder how Gene would have called that. Well, Gene, wherever you and Jim are now, maybe you're together and you guys can call it from there. But I just want to say that I'm very appreciative for the memories that you gave me as a child, and I know Houston feels the same way. So the state of the union in Houston is strong. We got a baseball team that's hanging on to first place. They've been the most dominant team in baseball for a decade, and I know we're not used to this. We're used to them just running away with it. But it makes the regular season more interesting, and hopefully, like I said last week, hopefully Dana Brown has that move in him that pushes the Astros over the top. We have a young Houston Rockets squad, so much optimism surrounding them. Same for the Houston Texans, man. August 1st is the Hall of Fame game. We will watch the very first Houston Texan enshrined into football heaven. What a time to be a Houston sports fan. It's the reason I started this podcast, and it's the reason I love doing it. Whether there's one of you watching, whether nobody's watching, if there's ever 500,000 of you watching, I'm going to do this every day, and I'm going to love it. And you know what? I want to make sure that I especially point that out to all of you haters in the AFC South Warzone group who are constantly telling me how nobody listens to this show. Well, guess what? I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to do it big, and I'm going to keep pushing play, and I'm going to keep hitting record as well. Speaking of podcasts, really quick, those of you who have joined me today, I want to thank you so much. I got to get out of here. I got a movie date with my wife. I want to wish her a happy birthday officially on the show. Yesterday, we celebrated her birthday. It was a great day. Baby 38 looks wonderful on you, and I want you to continue to celebrate yourself and embrace getting older and embrace your womanhood. You're a queen. You'll always be a queen. And I don't care the day you turn 100. You'll be the most beautiful woman in the world to me. But speaking of podcasts, I have submitted the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast to a competition that ESPN Houston, they said it's back. So I guess they've done this before. I didn't know about this. It's called Rock the Mic. And they are allowing local Houston podcasters to submit their podcast for an opportunity to have a podcast that is produced by ESPN Houston. So right now I have submitted a audition video for the first round of auditions. And what I've been explained to by the gentleman who I am emailing, and I emailed my audition to, is the way the competition is going to work is ESPN is going to select 10 of podcasters from the initial videos that we turned in. And out of those top 10, they will require us to turn in a second audition video. And with that second audition video, they will be posted to ESPN Houston's YouTube channel. And that's where I'm going to need you guys, because the top 4 contestants will be selected based upon that second audition video, how many views and how many likes it gets. Now, there's a lot of great podcasters in the city of Houston. I can think off the top of my head, the SLG Network, Bayou City Boys. There's several good Texans podcasts, and not to mention, some of the ones like Lashard Binkley. Lashard Binkley, I know his podcast is already slightly backed by someone else, so I don't know if those are the podcasters that will also qualify for this. I haven't really asked him about it. There are some other more professional, I would say less amateur podcasts that I listen to, but there's a lot of amateur podcasters around here that are really, really good. And I hope that I'm among you. I hope I can make the top 10. I would love to make the top 10. Honestly, I'm not going to lie to you. I want to win the whole thing. So I'm going to need your guys' help, though, if I'm going to do that. We'll see if I make the top 10. I find out on August 2nd. I'll let you guys know because I'm going to need your guys' help. Houston Sports Nation, I'm going to need you to rise up for me. But what a dream come true, man. Like, what an awesome thing to be able to celebrate Houston sports with a larger audience on ESPN's platform. I'm going to be completely honest with you, man. Like, I've been really bugging about this. I'm beside myself. Like, the anticipation is killing me. So I got to keep myself busy so it doesn't drive me nuts. But on August 2nd, I will find out. I'll let you guys know. And then I hope you guys can come through in the clutch for me, the way that the Houston sports teams always come through in the clutch for us. But the State of the Union in Houston is strong. I'm going to get out of here. I love you guys. Next week, the show will be on Thursday. In the meantime, I want you to stay 10 toes down for H-Town. I love you very much. Y'all have a good night.
This has been the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast, hosted by Nick Stevenson. Tune in next week for more news and analysis of your favorite Houston teams. Please follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, the app, formerly known as Twitter, if that's even really still a thing. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content.